Imagine being stranded in the Australian bush for 4 days with nothing but the natural materials around you. Well, that's exactly what I did. For 4 days, I immersed myself in the wilderness, relying on the art of bushcraft to create fire and cook using what nature provided. Join me on this incredible journey as I show you how I harnessed the power of the wild to overcome the challenges of survival and thrive in one of the most beautiful and unforgiving landscapes. Welcome to the Australian bush. I'm currently on one of my favourite river systems in country Victoria, and I'm just walking through all this vegetation here, looking for a bunch of materials that I can use to take back to camp to make a fire. I want to make a shrimp trap as well, and we're going to try and catch a fish to cook over the fire a bit later too. So what I'm doing is just looking at all the species of trees that we're walking past here, trying to find some sort of ribbon type cordage that I can use to make this shrimp trap with. And I'm also looking for some black wattle or some species of wattle that I can use to make a friction fire with later on. Check out the size of this tree. Tell you what, I miss being in Australia. It was awesome over in Europe, but I miss being surrounded by all these gum trees and awesome fishing and just my home really. Like, I love being around what I know, and I know how to fish these waters. I better watch out for snakes. We're in just on the tail end of summer now. This is absolute prime time that snakes will be up and about. So this here just behind me is called black wattle. They've got like these feathery leaves. The sap wood from this is actually really nice to get a friction fire started. So I've just come back here and I've had a look, and one of these branches has cracked right there, and this whole length of that branch is now dead. And I think I might cut that down, and we'll take that dry section of the tree back to camp and we'll try and get a friction fire going with it later. I was just about to cut down this dead branch off this black wattle tree, and at my feet I found the shell of a Murray crayfish just laying on the floor. I didn't expect to find one up here. We're about 10 meters above water level here, but a few months ago there was a huge flood came and absolutely minced this whole area. There's the remnants of the flood there. Oh. We'll take that back to camp and see what we can use off this. There's a whole bunch of sap growing off this tree as well, so I'm going to take some of that back to camp and we'll use some of that up later. So this here is the sap that oozes out of the tree there. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to use it for just yet, but we're going to tell you that back and I'll show you later. Just had a nice find on this tree. I don't know if you can see that, but that there is just old barbed wire that's all snapped. Obviously went and did an old fence over there. So I'm going to take a section of this with me now. That broke a lot easier than I thought it would actually. But that there will come in handy later on. I just found these tubular leaves on this plant here. I might just take a few of these. I won't take too many. They've got like a milky sap in them. I don't know what they are. I'm going to take them back with me. I don't quite know what these are. Kind of feel like straws a little bit. I've got a few of them that I'm going to take back. I've got a little idea in my head that I might be able to make these work a little later on. Let me know whereabouts in the world you're watching from, by the way. This is what Australia's got to offer. Dirty, clean drinking water and big old gum trees. It's a bit different than your snow-covered mountains and pine trees. A kangaroo just jumped through those tiny gaps there. I just found this wire wrapped around this tree that's obviously been used for some fencing at one point in time. What is that? Some honeycomb. But that's a nice little find there, about 3 or 4 meters worth of wire. Just going to fill up this bag I've got here with some fire lighting materials for later on. Just got heaps of dead grass here. We've got a really big fire problem here during summer because of that material right there. That sunburnt dry grass. Everywhere in the world there's problems with fires, but Australia is exceptionally bad. I was maybe going to take a few of these ends It's like just a dry grass seeds on the top of that. Just having a quick look to see if I can find any snakes around here. This is prime time. When the sun's high in the sky, they're not going to be out basking in the sun. It's just too hot. So they're going to be hanging out under a log here somewhere or tucked around the bank, just getting some nice shade just because it's a bit too hot for them to be out in the direct sunlight at the moment. I just want to be able to show you guys a nice Australian snake, or one of the most deadliest snakes in the world. We got plenty of them, so we'll see what we can find. See, just here, there's a log. That's prime location for a snake to just come and hide underneath there out of the sun. And they camouflage so well in all this debris. It's just dead leaves mixed with the green leaves. And most of our snakes are brown or black in colour. And you walk past, I'll probably just walk past a whole bunch of snakes that I had no idea about. Unless you actually go lifting logs and go and looking for them, you won't actually see them. They cop a bad rap, the old snake. I don't really have a huge design in my head yet about this shrimp net, like I do. I'm just going to start making it and see how it ends up anyway. So I just started the base of my net. There's no real proper design. I've just sort of woven all those green strands that I found earlier through each other. And then the idea is to sort of fold them up in a cone. And I found a whole bunch of these reeds, which I'm gonna weave in and out of those. The f do you even call them? I don't know. Whatever I've made with that, that's what I'm gonna weave it in and out of. This thing here. And essentially make like a cone-shaped shrimp net with these. I'm hoping it ends up big enough, but I don't need anything too big. We just need a handful of shrimp that we can use for bait to catch a cod later, or a yellow belly, something to cook up on the fire. I'm assuming the first part of this process is going to take the longest and be the hardest, but once it starts to go, I'm hoping it gets easier as time goes on. So I started making this trap and I realized the materials weren't compatible with each other, and it turned out like shit. So it was back to the drawing board. Jeez, this wire gets hot trying to break this wire off into 3 nice sections. I probably wanted about that size there, I'd say. So this essentially will be the top ring, and I've bent 3 pieces into V shapes so they'll come down and attach to the upper ring, sort of like a cone. There are a lot of carp in here though, but I'm not cooking a carp up for dinner. I mean, carp are nice in other countries, but in Australia, do not eat carp. They just scan the bottom of these river systems, just eating all the junk like a vacuum cleaner, and that flavour of the mud essentially just goes through their flesh and you're eating mud. They're not very nice. So I've essentially made this rocket ship that's going to be the bones of my shrimp trap, and I found these reeds over here. I'm just going to start weaving them in my rocket ship that I've made, and we're going to make an inverted lid for this so that the shrimp can swim in, and we're going to make it near impossible for them to swim out. Yeah, let's get to weaving this shrimp trap. So here's that piece of black wattle we cut down earlier. I'm just gonna find the best parts of this that I can use. So I need a baseboard that's kind of thick, so I might take this straight section off here, and then I need a spindle off something somewhere else. So I might take one of these smaller branches, but this is gonna turn into our fire later. I feel like such a kid in a candy shop. I want to go fish, I want to come make the fire, I want to make my shrimp net. I can't calm down. I need to just focus on one thing because I keep running around like a headless chook and I won't do anything. Just looking for the nicest straight piece here. I reckon it's gonna be this section just in here. Get out of here. Out of that whole branch, there's the two pieces that I want. So we're gonna use that as the bottom piece, and this, if it's straight enough, we'll use that as our spindle. But see that white wood in the middle there? That's sapwood, so when these guys get thicker, they'll end up getting a much darker coloured wood in the middle, and that gets really hard. That's not what we want. We want the nice soft white coloured wood in there. So this piece is perfect. Just got to hope this is straight enough now. So I'm just cutting a bit of gum tree, some hardwood for my handhold, so it doesn't wear down as quick as the softer wood that we're using for the spindle. So we'll split that in half. Look at all those rings in there. Ooh. So that there is gum, super hardwood. I'm gonna keep all these wafers that I've just shaved off, but we've essentially just made 3 sides to a square. I wanted to give it a crack tonight to get this bow drill going, but it's just not going to be a wise idea if I make a fire in this wind because there's just so much dry vegetation around me. So we're at the night of day 2 and I've just decided not to make a fire. Just that wind's picked right up. It's not supposed to, but it has, so I'm going to make a fire in the morning. I'm just putting a ridiculous bait on. We're right in the prime time of fishing right now on sunset, and I just broke off my line, so I just went and chucked a wind on and had a look what rigs I had in the car, and I had a gummy rig with a double hook sitting in the back of my van. So I've just bait mated a double hook chicken thigh fillet for a nice juicy cod that we're going to chuck out. Bit obnoxious I think, but let's see how we go. I've just been getting heaps of little critters pecking at all my smaller baits. So I've got shrimp, cheese, worms, and I've just been getting silver perch after carp after silver perch. So I've started putting a few bigger baits on, and I've had a bit of luck here in the past using chicken thighs for the big cod. So that's what we're going to roll with. So as the darkness rolls in, a lot of those smaller fish will go off, and that's when the bigger cod come out, the predatory fish, and they'll come out to play. I've been flicking lures all day as well. I've lost one today, I lost one last night, so had no luck on that front. I've been absolutely flat out. I'm just cooking some fake mashed potato and I had some pressure sealed turkey, so I'm pan frying some turkey and some fake mash. That's my dinner. Still haven't got a fish to cook on the fire. That's tomorrow's task. Still a nice night to be out fishing anyway. This is the first time I've stopped all day. I've just been going go, go, go. It's nice to just sit back and chill out and listen to these cockies go nuts again. There we go. Nice pair of chopsticks. Have a look at me dinner. Don't tell Mum I didn't have any veggies. Just some fake mash, which I love, and some turkey. That's amazing. Looks pretty nasty, but she tastes good. This half a chicken that we threw out to get another investigation. That was a bloody brilliant dinner, by the way. Get rid of those chopsticks. I don't want to see any bites on here. I just want to see that rod tip touch the water. Hopefully tomorrow we're going to get a nice fish to slap on the fire. All right, well, it's time to start this fire. It's now day 3 and I haven't had a fire this whole time I've been here. I've just been busy trying to collect materials and fish. Unfortunately, all I've caught is mud marlin and silver perch, which are protected. So both species of which are no good to me to eat. It's a nice silver perch. These guys are so thick. So our carp in Australia are not a very nice tasting fish, unlike all the carp that gets eaten in Europe. Actually, we're not allowed to even throw these guys back, so they're an invasive species that eats all our native fish. However, I've got a nice chunk of roast pork that I want to cook up today, so I need a fire if I want to do it. I've just finished making all the components for my friction fire, so I've got the baseboard here, which I've just warmed up and started smoking that, so hopefully that's good to go. I've just got a piece of hardwood gum tree there as my bearing block or handhold, and some of that black wattle. That's black wattle also as the spindle. Might be a little bit short. I was really struggling to find a longer straight piece. It just seemed every tree that I found that had dead bits was all curved. But that's my set there, and I've just got the bow over here with a double string. We're running a double string today for something new. And here's all that dead grass that we collected yesterday. So I got some of these guys here. They should be awesome. And just a whole bunch of dead grass. So what I might do is just crack this piece of bark in half that I found here. We can put all our dead stuff here, and this will be our working end. Yeah, so that can go over there. I want to sit all them on top, just like little grass pods. And there's our bird's nest. We'll sit them on top. I'll just break all them up and hope that the wind doesn't take that away. So I'm running this double string today just to try something new. The way it works is you just put the spindle in the middle there, wrap that back through itself, and instead of having just the single string where you've got to hold tension on it and it always ends up popping out as soon as you lose tension on it, you can sort of relax on this and it'll stay upright in between your shots if you haven't got it on the first try. Man, I stopped because I thought I had it and it didn't take. I shouldn't have stopped. It's all hardened now and it's not smoking up as easy. I'm getting too much friction on the top now. I've just made a longer spindle, so let's see how this goes. We got smoke. Oh, man, we got so much smoke for ages. And my channel's full of dust. I just don't know if this wood's gonna work. Don't know why that didn't go. We were pretty close. Oh. Oh, this is a real test of your mental strength, that's for sure. Getting heaps of dust, heaps of smoke. Just don't know how good this wood is. I've never used this wood before. There are other parts of Australia, there's much better woods to do this with. Yeah, sampling woods down in my region, down in the southeast of Australia. It's definitely not renowned for woods for starting a friction fire, that's for sure. The reason I can't keep going is because this nose that sits under my hand keeps rounding out and creating friction up here. And I've just been shaving all that hardened wood off after every shot just so that we get some better, finer dust. But while I was shaving this down, I don't know if you can see that, there's a tiny little witchetty grub just growing in there. There he is. I just squashed him. Get out of there. I've just whittled the nose of that to a much finer point so we get a little bit longer before it starts creating too much friction up in my handhold, because that's why I can't keep going. But man, I thought I would have had it after that last shot. Not sure whether it's the wood I'm using or, to be honest, it's probably me. I just can't see what else I could be doing any different at this stage. I mean, apart from that, creating a better nose for this friction up on my upper hand, I thought that was gonna be the one. Just every time you have a shot, that wood becomes more and more hardened each time. So you gotta keep scraping off the black. And obviously you get a bit more tired every shot you have too. Woo! If you ever wanted to get frustrated, have a crack at this. I'm absolutely starving and I just don't have time to keep going with this. There's my first spindle, there's my second spindle. That was about double the size before we started. My thumb's swollen up, got blisters. I think on the next one, I'm just gonna use like a standard bow with just a fixed string, because having to hold that tension is just absolutely mincing my thumb, which would be fine if it was quick and easy with this type of wood I've got, but it's not. So I will take that and we'll get a fire going on a future episode. But right now, let's get stuck into this next project so we can cook up an absolute storm. So before I left to come on this trip down to the river, I looked in my garage for about 45 minutes and I could not, for the life of me, figure out where my tripod was. So I'm gonna have to improvise and build one here today, just so we can hang my cast iron pot off it. So I'm just gonna cut these 3 pieces into equal lengths. Oh man. This gum is so hard to cut through with this saw. I'm just gonna tie the 3 of these tops together with this bank line here. All right, here we go. Happy with that. So just gonna hang our pot over here and we're gonna cook up an absolute storm. Tell you what, I'm fanging for a feed. I had turkey and fake mashed potato last night, so looking forward to a bit of actual meat or food, actual food. So I've got that barbed wire that we found yesterday, which I'm just gonna use to hang my pot off. So I'm just thinking these barbs should be able to just pin that in there, and maybe I need to do 1 wrap. There we go. And then we can hang our pot off here. It's probably not the safest thing. How's that? Barbed wire hanger for our pot. It's probably not the smartest thing using barbed wire if that pops off for my hanger, but hey, it'll do. Let's get started on this fire. Definitely clocked up a few Ks walking around the river, just trying to find materials. Shattered we didn't get that bow drill going, but we'll get her in one of the next episodes, don't you worry. I'm just gonna use that dust from the bow that we used earlier just to see how easy that does go up. Maybe this was a good test. It's starting to go. Hang on, let's see. This is a good test to see if these crumbs were gonna cut the mustard eventually. So I'm not rushing. That ember's just hopefully gonna slowly grow and just keep lighting up the rest of that dust. There's just a light bit of smoke coming off it now. That's all I needed when we were going with the bow drill, and we were super, super close. There's no rush now, I just want that to keep growing. I'm just gonna lightly blow on that now. Right, I'm just gonna see if we can transfer that ember that's forming there now into this bird's nest. All right, I've got it there. All right, it's in. There's no huge rush now because that ember's just gonna stay lit. We just need it to make contact with some of that dry material that's in there. There we go. Woo-hoo-hoo! We got there in the end. Geez, that went quick when it went. I've actually only thing I've caught is just a shitload of carp and a bunch of silver perch, and they're protected, so I can't actually keep them or eat them. The target species was Murray cod or golden perch, yellow belly, whatever you want to call it. Haven't eaten one of them in a long while now, so I was kind of banking on trying to catch one of them, but it's good to be back in Australia though. I'll tell you what, I miss the smell of that gum. I can already smell it, those gum leaves. A bunch of them on the fire, delicious. Oh, it's nice to finally get the brakes on a little bit now that we've got fire. It's been a tough 3 days, and this is the first time I've had a fire in 3 days. I've just been busy out exploring and trying to collect materials so that I can get by out here. And it was nice to know that that dust that I created from the friction fire actually was able to hold an ember and let it grow into this. So I will persevere with that bow drill set. So a fish just jumped over there. I'll persevere with that bow drill set on a future episode, so we will get it done. Don't worry, my thumbs are hurting, but I think it's time to hang this pot on the fire and get this pork on. There we go. Beautiful. It's the handy thing about the tripod. If it's too high or off center, you just move one of the legs out to suit it. Maybe we'll chuck this one out slightly. There we are, perfect. Oh, that's not too bad just yet. So what I'm gonna do, just so I haven't got the pork sitting directly on the heat, is just break a couple small bits of gum tree stick and layer them in here. And then our pork's just gonna sit on top of this so it hasn't got direct heat. And then I'm gonna start this fat side down. Beautiful. Geez, I love the smell of eucalyptus burning. How's this? It's got our homemade tripod with some barbed wire, cooking a big chunk of pork by this awesome little river system. Let's hopefully get a nice fish to slap over the fire later on as well. Oh, we're gonna chuck a tasty little treat on the fire. We've got our pork cooking just here, and I've got a shrimp net just here with some soap in it. For some reason, they love soap. Oh, full of them. Look at the size of this guy. Look at them. They just grab onto you with those long arms. But that there is a freshwater shrimp. We're gonna chuck a couple of those tasty little morsels on the fire. Hopefully they're not too covered in soap. So I've got 4 shrimp there. This one's biting me. I wouldn't be too happy either. I don't really want to chuck these guys on alive, so I'm just going to rip their heads off, and that's the tail there. Keep those for bait later on. There's another tail. And here's the big guy. They're unreal bait, so you pin them through their tail and they act as like a live bait flapping around. The fish absolutely love them, but they're also quite nice on the fire. My prawns have slow cooked themselves over the last 10 minutes. That's what we're working with there. I haven't eaten one of these for about 10 years. I can't really remember exactly what they taste like. I'm sure they taste pretty similar to prawns, to be honest. There's our little bit of prawn meat. Pretty bland flavour, to be honest, but if you were gonna assimilate them to something, definitely taste closely to prawns, or saltwater prawns anyway. They're still delicious. They just don't taste heaps like anything, which is weird. You'd think coming out of some pretty dirty water, they'd have a bit more of a muddy flavour to them, but they don't. They're quite nice. There's our juicy little prawn. Bit of shell in that one. But they're pretty tasty. Definitely if it was a survival trip, they'd be a welcome sight. Oi, shut up. Well, our barbed wired pork's been cooking for about half an hour now. I'm just gonna check it. Oh, baby. Check that out. I've gone fat side down just so it rendered out. Nice. Actually, I'm not even gonna spin that. That's actually just going perfect the way it is. All right, we're back to where we started. So that's going awesome. I'm gonna chuck a few spuds in there now. Woo! Trying not to lose too much heat out of my oven. Oh, but I've got a bunch of spuds here. Get them in. Oh, we've lost a soldier. That pork's looking awesome. I did nothing to it except salt it. I find with my roast meats, unless it's something out of the ordinary, I don't really do a whole lot to roast meats. I end up actually just flavouring the gravy, because I find that you can season a piece of roast meat and it's awesome if you get an outside bit, but the centre of it just tastes like meat. So what I end up doing is just flavouring the gravy so that when you pour the gravy over the meat, you got intense flavour through the whole part of that meat. So all I did, just salted this up, pretty basic, nothing too special there. Those prawns were nice. I had the rest of those 2 there, and I sort of felt like I undersold them a little bit. So if you ever get a chance to try them, give them a shot. So this is the update on my shrimp net. Yesterday I was wrapping all of those flat leaves around it, which was going all right. However, I was going to continue it today and it seems that they've all dried out. So I've come up with another system to finish this off now. I've been going around and getting all the dead dry bark off the ground, and I'm just going to wrap that around my wire cage here, and we're going to tie that and secure all that in place so the shrimp can't get out of it. So we're going to get a whole heap of them together now just to finish that cone off. This is definitely not the prettiest shrimp trap you'll probably ever see, but it should work. Bit of a challenge just trying to find nice bits of bark that would fit in there, being so brittle. But essentially, I've got a cone now. So hopefully, well, the shrimp will go inside here. I'm gonna put a bit of yesterday's turkey in there. And while they're in there, we'll just quickly scoop that out. We've got some fresh bait. Let's go get her in the water. Give our shrimp trap an official send-off. So there's some turkey from yesterday. Just got to make sure she doesn't float away. That seems pretty solid. So the key, if you ever do want to catch some shrimp, is you want flowing water. You don't want any stagnant lake sort of water. So you want flowing water, a nice drop off the bank like sort of what we've got here, no sandy sort of tapered off banks like that. And we'll give that about 20 minutes and we'll see if our turkey's done the damage. Happy with that. It's not the most pretty net you'll ever find, but she should work. It's been on for probably about an hour 20, I reckon. Those spuds have just been cooking in the fat, salty fat from the pork. Let's give that a crack. That looks awesome, actually. Oh, actually, we're gonna give that a minute to cool down. Oh, they're delicious. This barbed wire worked an absolute treat, by the way, and it didn't come flying off and smash me in the face with all the barbs. Check this pork out. Oh, I can't wait to dig into that. And these spuds. Oh, that's a ripper spud. Check out how golden that one got. Oh. There's one thing I missed while I was away in Europe. Sunday night roast with the family. Can't beat it. I chucked a few bits back in that fat just to crispy them up, and they've turned out unreal. Hot, but unreal. Let's see how old shrimp net's going with that pork fat. We got one. We got one, two. Oh, we got a yabby. Nice. Oh, I was just telling you how we hadn't had a yabby this whole time, and we've got ourselves a yabby. Awesome. Plus a couple of shrimp. They're kind of tasty to eat as well. Oh, is there any more yabbies in there? Oh, there's another shrimp. Oh, this has worked better than me shrimp nets. So we got a handful of shrimp and we got ourselves a nice yabby. I didn't actually think it'd work, but well, I kind of did. But we've got shrimp. We got 5 shrimp in that. That's been in there about 20 minutes. So I'll get those in the bucket and we'll try and turn that into a big Murray cod later on. Whoa, look at these guys just marinating in the fat. I reckon the cod would love that. It might look silly, but it bloody works. We just got 5 shrimp in 20 minutes. I'm just gonna put that pork fat in there from the rest of our meal. we'll get this back in there. Oh, I didn't think it would actually work so well as it has. A gumtree bark shrimp trap. Never thought I'd make one of them. Oh, that's refreshing. Can't beat a fresh cooked roast pork in the camp oven over the fire, especially in a setting like this with the iconic Aussie river behind me. If you've got any other camp oven recipes for me, let me know, I'd love to try them. You can't beat a good old roast pork though. These spuds are awesome, they've been cooking in all that fat. All right, I'll show you what I had planned for that tree sap from the black wattle I found yesterday in mind. Unfortunately, I found this within about 30 seconds of my walk, which isn't great, but at least I can put some rubbish to use. What we've got now is just a can, an empty can. I'm gonna take those 2 pieces of wax, we'll just put them both in there. 1, 2, they're sort of like little honeycomb things. I'll just sit that in the fire. Now I've also got a little bit of charcoal from the fire we've got here. Just gonna crush this up. There's my little shrimp from before. Oh, sorry, dude. He fell out of me trap and I couldn't find him. I'll keep him for bait later. But what I'm left with now is just like a black powder, which we're gonna dip into this resin very soon. Man, so I don't know if this is working how I envisaged. I know with pine sap you can melt it down to get a resin, so I'll put the black wattle sap in there and it seems that it's just crusting over. As it sort of like bursts out the side, it's just not liquefying and it just crusts over. So what I was gonna do was mix the ash out of this in with the black wattle sap to make a resin, which I was gonna use on a future episode. I'm not gonna tell you what I was gonna use it for, but you can use that resin on arrowheads and spears or whatever you want. I'm not gonna tell you what I was gonna use it on, but yeah, there you go. Now I know that black wattle resin doesn't liquefy like pine resin would. By the way, tell me if you know of any southeast Australian woods to do friction fire with other than the wattles. Let me know. I'd love to. I've done a whole lot of research and I always struggle to find any information on it really. There's lots of other woods elsewhere in Australia, just nothing down where I'm from in the southeast. So I'm just experimenting through them one by one and seeing what works. But I do think we will be able to get it with today's wood. I was hoping this resin would liquefy, but it's done nothing. Well, my shrimp net's seen better days, but I've been getting about 6 or 7 shrimp per pull every 15 minutes, and we just got our first yabby. So I'm just gonna show you how I've been hooking my shrimp up. Same goes for the yabby. Just gonna pin it through the tail just once like that, so that when the fish come up, they don't like to eat a face full of claws, so they'll try and attack the yabby or shrimp from the back and eat the meaty section so that all the claws are at the front. So generally they'll try and like swim your bait around and flick it around until they can get it tail first. So at least by pinning it in the back once like that, you got a better chance at hooking up. And that way he can stay alive for a lot longer in the water as well. He'll stay alive for hours just flapping around. It's another carp. Don't forget to give this video a like if you enjoyed it. And if you're feeling generous, consider subscribing to my channel. And if you don't, I love you anyway. Anyway, here we are at day 4. I've had a bloody blast, and until I see you guys on the next one.